The wide receiver position for the Carolina Panthers has evolved over the last 2 seasons. Today, we are here to break down the 90-man roster, take a look at the wide receivers as we head into training camp. Let's go.
Brace yourself for the ultimate Carolina Panthers experience. Welcome to Two Growls, One Roar, the podcast that hits harder than a Luke Kuechly tackle. We're diving deep into the heart of Panther Nation, bringing you unrivaled passion, insider takes, and pure gridiron fire. From Wilmington to the cosmos, this is your home for the fiercest football talk east or west of Charlotte.
Welcome in, folks, to another edition of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. Hope you guys are doing well. This is the final video for the offensive side of the ball. If you have not had a chance, folks, we've got quarterback, running back, of course, wide receiver today, tight end, and offensive line. I will link out to all these videos. If you are watching this on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, you're going to easily be able to, or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, you're going to be able to easily click through and listen to all these episodes as we go through this, or again, watch on Spotify or YouTube. Now, the wide receiver position, when we talk about position battles, position groups, the wide receiver position has suddenly become a strength for the Carolina Panthers, which is hard to imagine when you think about 2 years ago when you had the likes of Laviska Shenault, DJ Chark. No offense to those guys. Terrace Marshall Jr. kind of in the mix. Jonathan Mingo. This team has taken significant strides. Now, how far they can go and will go is going to be dependent on some leaps in year 2 for Xavier Legette, which we'll talk about. Jalen Coker, what's he going to look like? Is Adam Thielen still Adam Thielen? How does Hunter Renfrow fit in the mix? What about David Moore, who wants to be here in Carolina? There seems to be a scenario where there's going to be an odd man out. It's hard to imagine where we are today that the Carolina Panthers carry 7 wide receivers. And as we go through the math and the numbers, if you look at it, there's 7 true prospects in contention to be on the roster, which means somebody's not going to make it. And again, this isn't even factoring in to the undrafted free agents that also have a shot. But we know we're going to need some guys on the practice squad. We know there's a chance to move up and down. Saw what Jalen Coker was able to do as an undrafted free agent. So there is potential. And hey, some of these guys can slot in as return man. We also know Adam Thielen, likely his last year in the NFL, last year in Carolina. We'll see how this plays out. But with all that said, we are here today to break this thing down. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Hope you guys are enjoying this series. If you have followed along with me, hey, let me know how it goes. Like, what do you guys think about this? We do this every year. We break down the full 90-man roster, again, to the nitty-gritty. If you're not an offensive guy, we've got the defensive side of the ball coming up next. So we will have this series wrapped up within the next week. We'll have all this content ready to go for training camp to get you guys prepared. Not to mention FanFest. Hey, we just got the official announcement on FanFest tickets on sale. Make sure you scoop them up. Should be a good event. It's your one opportunity outside of a preseason game to see the Carolina Panthers during training camp. So here we go, folks. Now we're going to go through this. We're going to do the same thing that we've been doing, which originally I was doing it by tenure. That was easier when I had quarterbacks. Then we got into running backs, tight ends, all the other position groups. And I was like, we're going to do this alphabetically the way the team has it set up. It's just much easier for me. So 12 wide receivers on the Carolina Panthers. We're going to go through every single one, give you our opinions, where things sit on the 53-man roster. If you've not followed along the other videos, again, you carry 53, 3 for special teams. If you split it down the middle, it's 25, 25, 25 offense, 25 defense. But we know it varies. So for me, I think the Panthers are going to carry 23 to 24 on offense and 26 to 27-ish on the defensive side of the ball. Just how the numbers typically carry a little bit more on defense. You need a little more depth there in some of those positions. Let's go ahead and kick this thing off, you guys, with Dan Chisena. He has 5 years of experience, bigger than I thought. Like, you see him play, and then you don't really see him, and then you're like, oh, wow, okay. So he did have some flashes last season. There was a time where I actually thought he was Adam Thielen there for a minute when he was on the field, but 6'3", 202, 28 years old out of Penn State. He did have 3 receptions for 37 yards last season, and that was at the end of the season as we went through this gauntlet of, wide receiver shuffle, just figuring out who's going to do what. He did appear in 6 games. I was actually trying to pull up the game log for you. For his career itself, primarily been a special teamer. As you can see here, spent 3 years with Minnesota, 1 with Arizona, the Arizona Cardinals, and then this past season with Carolina Panthers. As we talk about him, yes, he wasn't bad at the end of the season, but it's hard for me to imagine that there is a spot for him. I just don't know that, the Panthers are going to have it. But great special teams player, great player to have on your practice squad. So I do think there's a chance for him to do that. The one game, so he kind of had a little bit of production against the Bucs, Cardinals, and I guess 2 games against the Bucs and then 1 against the Cardinals. I think it was the Cardinals game where he made a catch, and I thought it was Adam Thielen because he was the only wide receiver out there. So that is your Dan Chisena. Now we're going to move in. Of course, if you are following the alphabet, you guys know next up on the list is going to be Jalen Coker. What a fantastic story. Another, you don't realize, at least on TV, how big some of these guys are. 6'3", 213 out of Holy Cross. A lot of fans love Jalen Coker. Cokeheads, whatever your nickname is for him. He's a great story. You see him coming in, undrafted free agent. He comes to Carolina. Undrafted free agents get to decide where they want to go. Comes here because his dad likes the Panthers or like the Panthers. And here he is. This line of progression. And I know Steve Smith was big on him pre-draft last year. He has panned out so far. I mean, you look at his production from last season, 13 receptions, 478 yards, 2 touchdowns. We know, 1, it took him a little bit to get going because he wasn't up. He wasn't called up yet. Remember, he's made the roster, gets cut, goes to practice squad, sits there for a little bit, and then kind of finds a groove. And he did come on late, missed a little bit of time throughout. But, I mean, you talk about his production, especially with the amount of time he missed. If you're a fan of the Carolina Panthers, you have to feel pretty good right now. You can go back and look here. So did not play the first 3 games, really. I mean, I think he was activated for the Bengals, but he wasn't out there. So didn't see him really start to come into his own until the Bears, Falcons, Commanders. Then, we know, we missed 3 games. I think that sent him back. He probably could have gone for 500 yards or more, which for an undrafted free agent, if you tracked him throughout the season and where he finished, he was around top 10. If you were to compare him to all the wide receivers that were drafted, he had more yards than all but around 10 wide receivers in that range that were drafted. So you get that out of an undrafted free agent. You take that. We know the game against the Cowboys was the busted play, 83 yards, 1 touchdown. Had a good solid finish against the Falcons, 7 for 62. I think a lot of folks, as you get excited, and again, we talk about this team and how we feel good about them in the wide receiver position, this is a really good hit for Dan Morgan and the front office to find this type of talent, undrafted free agent, to get this type of production out of him. Hands down, as a Panthers fan, you got to be excited. When you look at this year 2 for him, I just wonder where the touches are going to fall. We got a lot. We got to spread the ball around. It's a good problem to have. Next up, we have Jacolby George, undrafted free agent rookie, 5'11", 172, out of the University of Miami. So you look at, and there's 2 undrafted free agents, rookies this year that are kind of in a similar boat to what Jalen Coker was. So they got really pretty decent contracts when it comes to the money and the guarantees. So seems as though hey, there's a chance for these guys. Now, for me, I think the room is so overcrowded that these guys likely are on the practice squad. I'm curious to see how much Dave Canales plays these guys in the preseason, not for the fact that these guys do need to get reps. I don't know how much he wants to show these two guys off. Speaking of Jacolby George, and we'll get into Kobe in a second, only because there's a chance that you're going to have to cut them when you get down to the 53. In that instance, do you want to put a bunch of film and tape out there and have these guys scooped up? It's just it's a game of chess, as we talk about it. And I think that's part of the reason that Coker was initially kept, because they didn't want him to get scooped up. So do you play that same game here? I don't know. We'll know as we get into it, but he is someone, as we start aging out and you think about trying to get younger and building this young core with Adam Thielen likely gone, like we said, Hunter Renfrow at least here a year, and we haven't gotten into David Moore, but those group of guys are a little bit older, and if you can get younger, I mean, why not? Why not? So I'm curious to see it. And same thing, like when we talk about Jacolby George, like the return capabilities, that's always something that's going to come into play. Now we move on to Jimmy Horn Jr., of course, draft selection for the Carolina Panthers. Rookie, 5'8", 174. He is a smaller frame guy. You think about his play in college and seeing the explosiveness. I think that's probably been the biggest thing that people have talked about, is a speedy, quick wide receiver. When you look at 40 times, he's like on the same level as Xavier Legette, but there is something different to his game. It's whether it's the twitchiness, the fast movements, his ability to take defenses over the top, but also just get involved in a little different type, whether it's jet sweep motions, all those things. We really haven't had a true speedy guy like this. Now, a late round draft pick, again, this could be another hit, could be another home run. I think for him, as we talk about coming into this season, what does it look like? I think if he can impact as a returner, that's great. Production-wise, 300 yards, 250, realistically, and if you can maybe get 400, that's a good season for him, in my opinion, considering where he was drafted. And then you can build off of it. And, of course, if you do get a punt returner out of this or a kick returner, I think it helps. But it's just a different element to the offense that the Panthers haven't had. And, again, if they figure this thing out and how to maneuver it in with him in the offense, with all the other pieces that are there, it could be exciting, folks. It really could. I've talked a lot about my expectations for the Carolina Panthers offense going into this season. So another undrafted free agent, Kobe Hudson, 6 foot 193 out of UCF. So he's another guy, got a really good contract as far as the guarantees for an undrafted free agent. Similar bucket to what we saw with Jalen Coker last season. So you think about both of these guys, Jacolby George, Kobe Hudson, prime opportunity. And again, boils down to numbers, a numbers game right now. So I see him as a practice squad player, unless they just knock the brakes off of this thing and look really good as we go into camp in the preseason. We'll find out. Not a bad spot to be, though, to develop on the practice squad. Again, it's like we said, guys age out. Good opportunity to have these guys fit into the mix. And like we said, maybe special teams along the way as well. So we move on to maybe a polarizing player in the fact that when you think about Xavier Legette, there's a lot of or Legette, as he likes to say, Xavier. There's so many people call different things. But XL, number 17, 6'3", 227, of course, out of the University of South Carolina. Last season had 49 receptions, 497 yards, 4 touchdowns. A lot of his production happened earlier in the season. Not the greatest finish. Issues with drops. He had surgery in the offseason. Man, we did a whole breakdown of the wide receiver position earlier, like a month or two ago. Feel free to go back because we got very deep in the discussions about Xavier and where we think he's going to fit in. And for me personally, why I think he's going to have a breakout year. He's been working hard. We've seen the videos, and like, I'm not one of those people that feels like I have to see the videos to say like, oh yeah, check the box. He's working. He's going hard. No, I know how hard these guys work, and I know for the fact that he talked about studying the film, talking about the drops, watching every single rep from last year, and then focusing on catching with his hands. He should be in a better position, not having to be that number one target with Tetairoa McMillan in the mix. I can't wait to see it. Now, I also know there's part of the fan base. It's like he was a first-round selection. Sure, it was the end of the first round, but he's a first-round selection. I expect more. I demand more. That's fine too. Like, I don't think there's a wrong way to have it. I would just say don't, at this point in time, compare him to Jonathan Mingo or get down in the dumps. Remember, Mingo is yet to score a touchdown. So you have that going for Xavier. He at least knows how to find the end zone. Going back and looking at the game log for him, finished the season with 3 receptions for 30 yards, 5 for 28 against the Bucs, missed the game against the Cardinals. Cowboys 2 for 7. Again, it slowed. He started out slow-ish, kind of found a groove there between the Broncos, Saints, Giants, Chiefs, Bucs, even the Eagles. 2 or 3 receptions per game, 30, 40, 50 yards in that range. His best game was against the Bengals earlier in the season. I think the biggest thing is consistency, improving the drops. There's a lot of opportunity for him this season. And like, I do think like, yeah, there's a good chance we could, I don't know if you call it a breakout, but hopefully after the end of this season, all Panthers fans are excited about him and what he can bring to the Carolinas, what his future looks like. We move on to a name that may not be super familiar for the casual fan, and that's TJ Luther, wide receiver number 81, 6'1", 1 year of experience, 25 years old, 180 pounds, played at Gardner Webb. It's primarily practice squad player when it comes to figuring out, and trying to get this pulled up here for you guys. There's live, yeah. As we talk about where he's going to fit into this equation, talking practice squad, like that's the nature of it. Now, if you guys follow the series, if you follow me this is really 3rd year doing this, you guys know that I always say when we mention players and expectations, and like, I'm not doing it from a point of bashing these guys. I'm just doing from a really realistic standpoint of where I think they fit on the roster today. So for me, I see TJ Luther as a practice squad player. It's just the nature of how it fits. Well, again, you have 12 right now. You're going to probably keep 6. There's a good chance these guys get cut. A few of them too, like, don't even hang around, because you're likely, I mean, you have the 16 spots on the practice squad, and that's got to cover offense and defense. So moving on to the one and only Tetairoa McMillan, number 4, listed at 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", 212 pounds, out of the University of Arizona, 8th overall pick for the Carolina Panthers. Can this be another big-time home run at pick 8? Think about Christian McCaffrey, J.C. Horn. Those picks, I think this is going to be one of those. Now, I never know for you guys how long you've listened to me. It's not like I can tap into that. But we all, as a fan base, can go back and look at the draft and the pre-draft process, and we know about Tetairoa, the hype, the anticipation. We also know that a lot of the focus and conversations were on defense. Felt like defense was going to be the way. Defense was not the way. Panthers felt like they did enough through free agency to get them in a position to draft a wide receiver at 8. And it's a playmaking wide receiver, a true X, a guy that if this pans out, I have high expectations. And those high expectations are thinking about, hey, can he break the rookie record held by Kelvin Benjamin for most receiving yards in a season? I think that's a possibility. I'm not saying that's where he's going to go, but I do think, realistically speaking, like, he's just going to give that new dynamic, the jump balls, contested catches, the red zone threat ability. there's a lot of good in Tetairoa McMillan, and he's a good worker. Like from what we've seen and what we've heard through OTAs and minicamp, I'm excited for him. I'm glad the Panthers went out and got their guy. We know that there was that possibility of a trade with the Rams. Didn't pan out. The Panthers asked for a haul. They didn't get it, and they landed on their guy. And again, they still were able to address the edge outside the linebacker position in the second round and third. So to me, things settled the way that they should. And I hope Panthers fans get behind him as well. Not that I don't think anybody does, but really good story too. Like just following along on his journey. He's got the YouTube channel if you haven't seen it. Put out some really good content. Now, as we go through and as we've gone through this list, I feel like we can say Jalen Coker is a lock. Xavier is a lock. Tetairoa McMillan is a lock. That's 3 locks. And we're getting closer and closer down the list. Jimmy Horn Jr., to me, should be a lock if you think about it. But I do put him at the bottom in this competition battle. I think the competition and where this thing's going to pan out is going to be between David Moore, Jimmy Horn Jr., and Hunter Renfrow. I just think that's the triangle. You possibly could expand it out a little more if you are thinking that one of these undrafted free agents could potentially be in the mix. So we'll see type thing. But David Moore, talk about a fantastic story. One, just wanting to play with Dave Canales, following him around Seattle, Tampa, now here in Carolina. And you go back and look at last year, not a bad season, considering like he was just kind of fitting into wherever he was needed. 32 receptions, 351 yards, 3 touchdowns. You go back and look at his time, like we said, when he was in Seattle, had 78 receptions, 1,100 yards, 13 touchdowns in 4 seasons. Like he's not a super productive player, but he knows the offense. He knows Canales. He's comfortable with him. And as we've heard through the offseason and most recently that he wanted to be here because of Canales. You actually look back at his stats for those that are following along Spotify and YouTube. His second season in Seattle had 445 yards, 301 in his third season, 417 in 2020, which was his fourth. Did spend time with Denver and Green Bay, of course not with Dave Canales, then got connected back to Canales in Tampa with 94 yards. But yeah, the 351 was the 3rd best season of his career. 3rd best when it comes to touchdowns as well. And that was really with a gap of like 3 years without any real production. So he likes Canales. He likes the system. He's found his fit. He's a reliable target. I know there's some folks that have already written him off, and I understand that portion of it. But I do think, like I said, the competition is open. David Moore is in the mix. Jimmy Horn, Hunter Renfrow. Again, I look at that triangle, and then, like you said, Jacolby or Kobe, you could throw them in there as well. But he's a good player. I'm not saying he's an all-star player, but I think like if you can take, you're going to need your roster to have guys that, 2 or 3 guys that are 300, 400-yard guys, catch the ball, get first downs, score touchdowns when needed. And he's a veteran, has the experience. Speaking of veterans that have experience, of course, we have Hunter Renfrow, number 13, with 6 years of experience, had the gap last year, sat out. We all know about the intestinal issues and everything that was going on there. 5'10", 185, really a slot player, 29 years old, played at Clemson. Does not satisfy the requirement of drafting a player from Clemson, which the Panthers still have not done. But at least you have a player on the roster. You look at where he fits in, and I was actually going back and watching some of his tape before this. Posted a few of the clips on X. I do think, and again, there's a lot of the fan base that has already said he's not making it. Like, to me, you're going to carry 6. So there's a chance it's Hunter. I mean, I've said the names multiple times, but out of that group, one of those guys, possibly 2, that are going to make this. So for me, I think about the potential for Renfrow, if he was really as sick and down as he was in that last season with the Raiders, and he's figured this stuff out and he's healthy, he's only 29 years old. You put it in perspective, which we'll talk about Adam Thielen in a second, but Adam Thielen, who's 34, was like 31 when he landed here in Carolina. So you're talking about getting Hunter Renfrow at 29. There's still 2, 3, 4 years left. He could be your Adam Thielen replacement. I know Coker plays a lot in the slot, or did move some things around. So it is an exploration year, a prove it year, a 1-year option to figure it out. Now we're going to have to see some production, but I mean, by all accounts, from the few things that we've seen thus far, I do think he has a legitimate chance to make the roster. And you also chalk this up as another good opportunity by the front office. They've added competition. Whether he makes it to the final spot, we'll see. But you've added the competition here to make it hard. Make it hard on these guys and don't make it easy. It's been a cakewalk to a certain extent of like, oh, well, we know who the guys are for the final 53. But now we're starting to see like, oh, wait, I don't know if that guy's going to make it. I don't know how he's going to pan out, how this thing plays out there. So, all right, we got 2 more wide receivers to go. Of course, Adam Thielen, the trusty, dusty connection for Bryce Young, the trusty, dusty veteran, 6'2", 195. Of course, played out of Minnesota State, 12 years of experience, 34 years old. Led the team in yards despite missing the amount of time that he did. 48 receptions, 615 yards, 5 touchdowns. I mean, this dude and the connection he has with Bryce Young, that alone. Like, I know he's getting up in age. This is likely the final ride, but they just found something. I know in 23 it was unreal, 103 receptions, second most in his career outside of the 2018 season, 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, it's ridiculous, to be honest. He's the oldest wide receiver, active wide receiver in the NFL, and I expect him to continue to take strides. And with that said, we've talked through quite a bit of talent that's here. So for me, maybe part of that, it falls off a little bit. Not that we want it, but maybe some of the snap counts, you give him a breather, and that's a good thing. Like, let this guy breathe. He wanted to come back here, wanted to come back for Bryce Young, one final ride. Let's get him into the playoffs. Like, at least get this man into the playoffs. I'm excited. Last on our list, Bryson Tremaine, number 87, 6'4", 212 pounds, 25 years old, out of Stanford. He was signed late in the offseason via way of Washington Commanders. Had 1 reception for -2 yards last year. So I do look at him, like, I think initially the Panthers probably were like, hey, we're going to pick this guy up. This was before they knew where they were going to land. So I think you're talking practice squad with him. Young, so there's experience to get on the practice squad. I think that's another thing when we talk about these players like practice squad. There's certain requirements to be on the practice squad. So, like, as it pertains to years of experience and things like that. So younger guys usually get a better nod on that over veteran. It's hard to imagine you're going to keep a veteran with 7-8 years of experience just sitting around twiddling his thumbs. You gotta get on the pot or get off. So with that said, folks, as we go back here, I'll share this again. We now look again, we've got 12 on the roster. So for me, it's Jalen Coker, Jimmy Horn Jr., Xavier Tetairoa McMillan, Adam Thielen. Getting into the final, I do nod to Hunter Renfrow, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's David Moore. Also wouldn't be surprised if Jimmy Horn somehow didn't. I'm not, again, you got to understand, I'm just talking out loud for where my head is and where things can be. I'm not saying Jimmy Horn's not going to make the roster or anything like that. So there you have it, folks. Well, that's been a doozy, and I think that's going to do it. So that is all for the offensive side of the ball. We're going to go to defense next. As always, this is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.